Hello and welcome, everybody. This is the Web3 webinar. Web3 next hot thing or hot air. Super glad to have you here. Let's get started. A bubble is a wonderful thing, is it not? It floats in the air, it gleams in the sunlight, it delights children, annoys some adults, and pops at the slightest touch. Today, we're talking Web3. It's an evolving mix of technologies that include blockchain, crypto, NFTs, lofty concepts like decentralization, democratization, security, maybe not privacy if you're on a public blockchain. The term has been around since, believe it or not, 2014, reached a peak last year, 2021. It's a little less sexy today than it was just a few months ago. The question is there something here? Is this cool? Is Web3 the next hot thing still? Or was it just hot air? Are we going to pass through the trough of disillusionment on the Web3 hype cycle? And are we going to enter the glorious fields of enlightenment? There's two major chunks of this webinar. We're going to talk about Web3 product, what's involved, what's included, what makes a game or app Web3. And we're going to talk about Web3 marketing. What are the strategies? What are the tactics? How do you grow a Web3 game or a Web3 app? Are there new ways? Are there same old ways that still work? As we go through, there is a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. If you have questions, we've got a great panel. I'm going to introduce them in a moment. Please use that. We have the most pre-questions of any webinar that I've ever seen for Singular, so it's going to be good. So let me introduce the panel. We've got a crazy good panel today, starting with Anya Shapina, who's the head of performance at the Sandbox. What is a Sandbox? It's a decentralized open metaverse where users own, create, and monetize their assets and experiences on the Ethereum blockchain. Sounds very cool. We also have Daniel Lopez, VP Growth Marketing at Mythical Games. Mythical Games, which I assume there's some real games there too, offers free-to-play and play-to-own games on the Mythical platform and believes that ownership of digital assets is the future of games. We're also joined by Warren Woodward, who's the co-founder and chief growth officer at Uptick. It's a great gaming growth tech and services company. Their partners include Axie Infinity, never heard of that, Kabam. Their team brings over 50 million new players annually into the games they support. And we also have Hagop Hagopian, founder and CEO at Advertiser. He's got a great background. You'll see it when he's talking. He's also the winner of Best Name on the panel, and his Starbucks name, he just said, is Jack. We understand that. I understand that with my last name as well. I'm John Koetsier. I write for Forbes. I consult with tech companies. And super pumped to be here. Our host for this webinar, if we can move to the next slide, is Singular. And Singular offers next generation marketing measurement and attribution technologies for traditional games, traditional apps, multi-platform brands, as well as Web3 companies such as OpenSea, Mythical, Discord, and Pocket Worlds. Okay, we're going to set the stage with the poll. And if we can bring up the poll right now, that would be great. This poll is about NFTs, and the question is simple. How many of you own an NFT? So do you own an NFT? No, and I never will. I just here to hate on everything. It's all good. Hey, you're welcome. Just a simple no, or yes, 1 to 5. You know, I dabbled, I bought a couple, or hey, many, dude, I've got hundreds, you know, used to be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Now it's worth 5. No, I'm just joking. If you can answer that, that would be great. And let's bring up the results. Here they come. No one, I never will. 8%. Thank you for joining. We love you too. No is 59%. Excellent. You're in the right place. 1 to 5, quarter of you had dabbled, and 9% are, whoa, OG. You know what you're talking about, what you're doing. We hope and we think we've got some good stuff for you as well. Okay, let's get into all the gory details right up front. We all know what's been happening with the industry, the state of the industry, crypto crash, NFT slowdown. Question is this: what's going on here? What's been the impact on Web3 apps and games? Anya, can you kick us off?
Yes, of course. Hi, hello, everyone. Well, let's be real here. The situation is tough as a marketer. It's harder to scale. Some of the audiences have shrunk, right? We're here to reach scale. You know, a lot of companies delay the funding rounds and NFT drops. So, you know, the pain is real. But I think I personally love what's happening because it's really clears out the space. It gives us clarity. A lot of the projects that had no substance and had truly bad products are just like going away and making room for better projects, for more sustainable, good games. And that's a positive. Also, communities are getting healthier and less hype driven. And what I like also is that the price points for entry price points, NFT prices are coming down, making it more affordable and easier for regular people to join the space. And people who are still in the space and who are just now joining the space, they see what we see, the tremendous promise of this technology. And so there's a bad and the good, and I think the good outweighs the bad.
Wonderful. Less hype in Web3 and blockchain. Wow, is this even possible? Maybe I can afford a Bored Ape now. I don't know. Daniel, your thoughts, state of the industry right now.
I mean, hard to follow up that. That was such a great response. Like, I agree with 100% with what she said. Like, the bubble is certainly popped. The technology, the folks that know about the technology are finally excited to get to work. You know what I mean? Like, right now is where the industry for the next 20 years is going to be shaped. We've seen, like, the early fervor was really validation. Like, there's a lot of appetite for the technology. There's a lot of appetite for this tech for in this space, and the market is just going to grow and grow and grow. So I'm super excited. Of course, things are a little bit scary, but markets ebb and flow, things come and go, and we lived the hype for a little while. It was great. Now it's time to get to work.
Yeah, things can get a little scary when you lose hundreds of thousands of dollars, but it does happen. Hagop, what have you been seeing?
Yeah, I think one area that I would like to cover is the part where this negative connotation associated with NFTs and Web3. Like, there's those non-believers where they say it's a bluff. It's not. Actually, it's a great technology. I believe now it's a good time for marketers, for product developers, Web3 enthusiasts, to figure out how we can remove this negative connotations and gradually lure the mainstream into accepting this technology versus assuming it's a joke.
Love it. Warren.
Yeah, Hugo just used a good term of true believers. Like, I really think of current state of Web3 as really a religious war. Like, everyone has a very passionate opinion on it. And this current phase really does feel like a correction in multiple senses. When thinking about a lot of the skepticism for the space, I try to really separate out valid from invalid arguments. And one of the arguments that I do have to admit is very valid for the early days of the Web3 gaming space and NFTs is there's a lot of bad actors, there's a lot of scams, there's a lot of low quality projects. Now that we're past this really mania speculation phase, it really does lead to a correction of, like, if you're still here, if you're building something, you're probably building something because you value, what the technology can bring to the table, not because you're trying to make a quick few $million. So I'm quite bullish on just kind of like the reduction of noise afforded for us in this current dip.
Warren, I really like that. It's funny because mobile is everything right now, right? I mean, it's most of advertising. It's most of the time we spend. I remember the beginning of mobile. I know the guy who made the first fart app, right? And then we thought, okay, this new platform, what are we going to make a fart app, right? Or this one app that came out and there was a gem. That was all. It was a picture of a gem and it was $999 because you couldn't go above $1,000 on the App Store. So, humble beginnings can grow. Very interesting. Anya, let's dive in a little bit and maybe kind of set the stage for us here. What are the top categories in Web3 gaming? What do you see out there? Okay,
so leaving crypto and DeFi off the table, let's focus on NFTs because we're here marketers, gamers, so I think we're talking about like NFT use cases really in Web3. So in the top categories there, and I have a little piece of paper print out from non-fungible report. So the top, and I'm gonna quote some numbers. The top categories are utilities, gaming, collectibles, metaverses, and art. Oh, you're sharing it, perfect, great. So we're gonna look at it together. And that's, can we actually look, do you have a slide with a number of wallets? No. Okay, so this is a trade volume, but more importantly, and by the way, these are transactions, on the blockchain, but also we're looking at the number of active wallets, the sizes of this communities. And if you look at that slide, so yeah, that's right. So gaming leads, and it leads with 900,000 active wallets. Well, that's a very small number. And actually, it's debatable. This report doesn't include all the blockchains. It includes Ethereum, Flow, and Ronin, the top ones, but it doesn't include Solana and Polygon and a number of others. So it's not the number basically that people agree on is it's somewhere between just under 1 million and 2.5 million. Still not huge compared to traditional gaming, but it's the greatest category by the size of the community among other types. And then collectibles come next. And then metaverses are tiny. I work for metaverse and I just want to get our record cleared. These are people who buy virtual land, and we have a limited number of virtual lands here. And similar for gaming, I just want to highlight, this is just like looking at paying users in a free-to-play games, not all active users. Still, the numbers speak for themselves. And then art and utilities. However, when we look at the transactions, the other visual that I wanted to see, okay, by the number of transactions, collectibles are still the leading case. That's where the money is. And gaming is still tiny, with basically about 10% of the collectibles transaction volume. And these are Q1 numbers, I have to say. So this is not yearly, this is quarterly numbers. So these are the top categories. Apparently the gaming, blockchain gaming has some growing up to do compared to traditional gaming, but yeah, so we have some room for growth here.
Absolutely. Daniel, room for growth. What are some top categories that you see?
Yeah, with regards to gaming, I mean, Anya again brought the wood with the data and all the different top classes, but like you see the same kind of categories pop up within gaming in itself. So you have both utility gaming apps, games, you have collecting games, and you also have grinding games, which can kind of feel like a job, which kind of segments them in my lens of like a gamer of fun and not fun. We definitely have a lot of early concept games out in the universe right now where it just kind of feels like a job. You've got a lot of folks trying to make the money. It's stressful. It's very akin to gambling, and you're plugging away just at an end goal and not really enjoying your ride there. And so that's something that we at Mythical are really trying to solve. We're trying to put gamers first, gaming first, really have an A+ experience, and we're exploring all the different avenues. Like with Blancos right now, our current product, it definitely skews more toward the collectible. We have so many awesome brand collaborations that we've done with Burberry, with I'm freezing up, but there's so many that I could name. It's just they all just came all at once. And then we also have games in the pipeline that we're aiming to try and really hone in on that play to earn in a way that is back to being fun. That way we can appeal to the everyday user and the broader general audience and get them in with the game first, as opposed to it being opposed to them being hit over the head with the fact that there's NFTs involved. So really awesome opportunity and growth there.
I love that differentiator between games that are fun and games that aren't. And of course, that definition is different for each one of us, right? Some of us love that collecting. Some of us love, puzzle games, which to me, it's like you have to pay me to do those, right? But different people like different things. I want to talk about differentiators for Web3 as a product. And we're going to bring Hagop and Warren in here. Hagop first. Like, what makes a product, what makes an app or a game a Web3 game or app? What differentiates it from a traditional game or app? What's it look like? Hagop, how about you kick us off there?
Yeah, definitely. There's a couple of major differentiators. I'll highlight a few of those. One of them is just the interoperability between of different games. Imagine this world where you're good at Mortal Kombat, and then Street Fighter, that's another world. You're bringing your Mortal Kombat character to this new world, which is something amazing if you think about it that way. The other one is, I would say, is it's creating an economy within an economy. In Metaverse, everyone is benefiting economically, not just activating the endorphins of playing the game. What I mean that they're making money. One of my clients, Upland, which is Web3 property trading games, all the stories and case studies we're hearing from the users is that they are making a living out of this game by buying properties and reselling the properties. And lastly, I would say just the uniqueness of owning something within a brand, right? Like when we played all these games back in the days, you'll see it. You're inspired by the whole view of it and everything. But now with the creator aspect of it, you actually can be proud and say, actually, this is me. I built this. I own this.
I love what you're saying. I was doing a little bit of consulting with Rovio some months ago, talking about Web3 and decentralization. I was thinking, hey, we typically call people in apps users, or maybe players, or maybe they're customers if it's retail. What about owners?
Yeah.
What about owners, right? Are they owners? Could that be? What would that look like? Warren, your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just to expand on that, John, and build off of some of Hiccups' points. The biggest shift I think anyone moving into the space has to think about is that dynamic of a player / owner. I cut my teeth on mobile free to play as I came into the industry, and there's basically a one-way value journey there where you make a purchase as a player and it's just gone. You just put your money into a money pit. If you stop playing the game, there's nothing that you kind of still own. So there's a good and a challenge that comes from the player owner economy. On the positive side, what we see is just ridiculously high engagement from the community. Like they're helping you build, they're giving you feedback, they're making content, because they really do feel like they and in the best communities, they do have a true voice in the future of that project. But at the same time, there's challenges that come along with that. Like, when we started working with the Axie team, they brought us in for a Twitter space with their community. And I was like, oh, cool, this will be fun. We'll get some, kind of high level questions. They friggin' grilled us. It was like having like a shareholder meeting of just like, what are your core KPIs? How are you going to address this issue? What messaging are you going to use? And the education and kind of depth of research they had on the company, on the market, and on their potential audience was like super impressive. But it's also additional challenging. Like they really hold their games to a higher standard than I think happens in free to play.
Nailed it, Warren. I did a Twitter stream with Vive. It's got to be, I think it's VV actually. Sorry if I've forgotten what it is exactly, but they are passionate. Holy cow, thousands of people, amazing. We're going to get to the marketing and the growth strategies in just a bit, but let's turn a little bit to monetization. Anya, we're going to have you up first here. How do Web3 products monetize? How's it different?
Okay, so I just want to actually talk about, well, there are different models, but basically, if you are moving from Web 2 from Web 3, it's a completely different game economy. You have to let go of everything you've known in Web 2 and embrace completely different mentality. You no longer just print virtual assets at fixed prices. You no longer run an inflationary economy with a storefront. Instead, you encourage transactions and healthy ecosystem and with peer-to-peer transactions. And when this ecosystem is healthy and there is demand and supply that you have to balance, only then you make money. It's like running a public service or like a little country with its own economy. It's actually quite fascinating. I'll give you an example of the Sandbox, how we monetize. Granted, it's a metaverse, it's complicated, but I think it's a great, interesting example. So number one, we sell virtual land, which then gets traded on OpenSea, and we take a cut from those transactions, 5%. Landowners, talking about the ecosystem, landowners hire game makers, creators, to develop experiences on their lands. Then the game makers, they purchase NFTs made by our other creators, by artists who create 3D voxel art and mint them as NFTs. They set their own prices without guidelines, and we take 5% cut again. So basically, it's about that commission on transactions on the primary and on the secondary market that we basically how we make our money. So yeah.
Love it. Create
so you always
value.
want to make sure that there's supply and demand, and there is actually the community is healthy and coherent, and there is basically this kind of trading and this development and the building going on.
Daniel, what can you tell us about Web3 monetization?
Yeah, at least in my experience, and it differs very much from Anya because we represent, I feel like, pretty different products that kind of lie on different points in the on the web spectrum. But like in my opinion, in my point of view, there's two different real uh, clear monetization strategies. You have the fully Web3 straight to NFT push to mainnet type of e-com direct purchase line of monetization, where you're appealing to a completely different crowd. You're not necessarily particularly appealing to gamers. You're appealing directly to Web3 individuals, investors, folks who are looking to buy hype, that are looking into early adoption, what have you. That same product then could actually even be sold as an in-app purchase in games to users who actually have no idea it's even an NFT. And that game itself, again, like going back to gaming first, the game does have to have some amount of I don't know what the exact term would be, but a residual in-game type of items and currency that is used to further the wheel and the player progression and whatnot. That probably won't even be an NFT, right? Because you want to maintain the core values of Web3 and scarcity, and maintain the value for those folks that are buying those premier branded products and those premier branded NFTs either on market or in game. And so I've seen it both ways, where if you have a great free-to-play game with a great free-to-play model and free-to-play mechanisms, you have all the available revenue generation from a great free-to-play game. Then on top of that, if you have the eye of the Web3 audience, you also have just really cool collaborations that are represented in Web3. That's where the gate to mass adoption kind of sits right now, is breaking down those barriers and kind of getting folks from Web2 to cross that line into Web3, maybe without even knowing it, just by having just a really cool product, a really cool branded asset that they'll kind of dabble in for the first time. I would not be surprised if you polled Blanco's users today, and it's actually given me an idea for my consumer insights team to go after, is like, how many people know that they own NFTs when they're playing Blankos? Because it's very easy to get lost in the idea that this is just a great game, it's a fun game, and these are just cool things that you can buy. Who knows that they're even aware that it's an NFT and that they can buy on the secondary marketplace? And I didn't even touch that part of it, and that's a completely different revenue stream, where we have our first party marketplace that we offer on the Mythical platform side, and then people can export that to OpenSea, sell there. It's just the monetization options are endless, and we're still figuring out ways to make that the best experience for the users and the gamers.
That is a great segue, Daniel, because we're going to talk about getting on the path to mainstream. By the way, when you get that data, I want to see it. That would be super interesting to see that that data. Question is, where are we on the path to mainstream? We've got a lot of early adopters, obviously. We've got a current audience. It's interesting. Reddit just came out with NFT avatars, right? And I considered buying one. They're from $10 to about $100. They're kind of cool, not 100% unique. But where are we on the path to mainstream? I want to get everybody involved in this one briefly each. Warren, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, there's so many thoughts on this. I mean, unfortunately, I think true mass adoption is still pretty far away. There's a few key reasons for this. I mean, the main is it's still just a huge pain in the ass for someone to actually have a first-time experience with some kind of blockchain or Web3 game. This is because like onboarding sucks today. Like the process of creating a wallet and transferring assets and making purchases is still very painful. We still don't have the support of the major platforms for most models of Web3 gaming. So, if you want to play a mobile Web3 game, in most cases you have to do some like wonky like APK flow just to get access to it. And I think we're really not going to see progress until we get more support from the platforms, improve these on-ramps. But also, I think real mass adoption, what it's going to look like is we're not going to talk about Web3 games. We'll just stop talking about all of this, and all of what Web3 brings to the table for builders will essentially just kind of be in the background as other cool ways that you can build unique hooks or do cool things with your economy, and it'll just be games. And no one is like, oh, I only play cloud computing games, or like AWS games. Like we're in a once we stop talking about the technology interface in the background and we're just enriching the gaming experience, that's when I think we're on the road to mainstream adoption.
Well, that's really interesting, and it makes me think about the bad experience you can sometimes have in Web3, right? You want to enter, you want to check out a service, and they say, "Hey, connect your wallet." I'm going like, "Wow, I want to just enter the store and browse, or I just want to go in the mall, and you want my credit card before I can get in, right?" Yeah, with the privacy security record you've got, forget about it. Daniel, where are we on the path to mainstream?
It's actually funny you guys are talking about these things because it's a lot of things that we are aiming to fix with Mythical. We actually have that experience where you can visit a marketplace. You don't have to connect anything. You have a custodial generated wallet when you actually create an account, and then you can purchase via fiat. Like, you know what I mean? Like and Warren said it great in a great way. Like we right now are almost doing like the we had to blow up the technology. People had to understand it. We had to go through this phase of kind of our growth, like, you know, the adolescence, the running around and beating our chests about, like, you know, Web3. Like it just had to happen. And I think that when mass adoption starts to happen, it's going to be because of these experiences and people not even knowing, because the tech has just become so ingrained, and it's just it is the preferred tech and platform of choice, that it's just there. And so that's really what we're trying to build. Again, gaming first, really have just these great experiences, great brand partnerships, like our NFL product that's coming out, right? NFL Rivals. We have the NFL Rarity League that's dropping soon. Like we want folks to get in, get enthusiastic about the partnership, the product, and then the fact that it's Web3 is kind of just in the background. It's just, you get all this great value, and you're getting empowered as a gaming user base. Like it's all good stuff. And I'm floating everything on silver linings and everything else like that, but it really is such an exciting future, and I feel very, very happy to be kind of evangelizing for it.
I see you're starting with the small brands. I mean, like, you know, NFL, right? I mean, Anya, briefly, where are we on the path to mainstream?
It will be very brief because Warren and Daniel really covered what I wanted to say as well. Couldn't say it any better. But I wanted to just add another little aspect about creators. Like in Web3, users are creators. And it's particularly true about the Sandbox. And, you know, the new generations of kids is growing up as creators. I'm looking at my 8-year-old son who is playing the Sandbox, and his first inclinations, he wants to make these things. He's growing up with Roblox and Minecraft, and he wants to build his own worlds, right? And the Web3 opens the ownership opportunities for creators. So I think that's another kind of avenue of bringing people in once they kind of get a taste of that. And another one is, you know, profit. Look at what Axie did for Southeast Asia, right? So I think on this panel, we're all like not for play to earn and grinding necessarily, but hey, you know, that's actually was a tremendous source of income and motivation for so many people. So many people in the countries currently previously ignored by the traditional gaming industry, in countries like Brazil and Turkey and India and all over Southeast Asia and Africa. This is where a lot of our creators, a lot of gamers are coming from in the Sandbox. So, you know, I think we're actually opening up a lot of different opportunities for people to join gaming and Web3 that previously weren't part of it.
Hagop, I want to kick off the next one with you. So we talked about the path to mainstream. Warren has said we're super early. It's really, it's getting mainstream is a long ways away. How do we expand beyond early adopters? And do you have different growth strategies for majority or later adopters? Hagop, you kick it off, please.
Yeah, with the mass adoption, I think the team covered really well in terms of the technology aspect of it. Like, let's not scare them away with the Web3 technical parts, which is the crypto, the wallet, the smart contract. Daniel mentioned Mythical game is doing really well. Same with Upland. It's like you're buying an NFT with your mobile currency, like you're buying through the Apple Pay, right? Like these are good ways to drive the mainstream to be more receptible. Let's not mention it, oh, it's NFTs, it's Web3. Let's change the marketing to be more of, it's about the gaming experience. What are they going to benefit out of it? So that would be the main point when it comes to marketing. How can you market it? Less about being this scary thing or this thing that I don't trust, and more of like, it's the experience, it's the added value that you're getting that you haven't got before in the Web 2.
Anya, how do we expand beyond early adopters?
You know, I think we're covering similar topics here. I also completely agree that basically we need to make simpler, more fun products, and basically eliminate obstacles on onboarding. Better UX, more clarity, more user education. Yeah, put all this Web3 technology things on the background. And you know, for specifically for actually marketing approach, well, that's product, of course. Specifically for marketing, you know, I think we need to be very conscious, very clear about who are the people that we're trying to onboard. They're not just some uniform users, audience, right? They all join with distinct motivations. They have very different user profiles. So I think our marketing techniques and our approach has to be completely differentiated between those different distinct audiences with the user personas motivations for joining, right? We don't want to target like Web3 crypto native the same way as a completely mainstream user or a brand fan, or a person who has millions of dollars on their wallet account versus somebody who has just created the wallet account for the first time. They require different marketing approach, different, you know, user journeys, and yeah, different onboarding experiences as well.
Warren, anything to add?
Yeah, when we think about it expanding to larger audiences, I think, you know, one thing that I have been tracking a lot is it's less about, you know, for these early games about going after the existing Web3 audience, and more that we see that the best of these games are actually increasing those that are participating in the Web3 ecosystem. Like Anya mentioned, Axie in Southeast Asia. Like when Anya shared those numbers earlier, we know that a lot of that player base is from Ronin, which is Axie's blockchain. And it's not that there was some huge amount of, you know, passionate Web3 players out there. It's that, you know, this game, this opportunity was presented to them, and it was their first experience and on-ramp. So I think that's games themselves will be a huge driver of adoption once they are fun enough and once they're good, you know, good enough as experiences.
Well, particularly in Axie Infinity, where people could earn a living, essentially, right, for a period of time at least. Okay, let's bring up our second poll. Our second poll is going to be about whether you've ever played a Web3 game or had a metaverse experience. Have you played a Web3 game or had a metaverse experience? So that might be on Anya's metaverse. It might be Horizon Worlds or something like that from Meta/Facebook, maybe something else, maybe a Second Life. Maybe you did it like 15 years ago, 19 years ago, who knows, right? Have you had one? Yes, not sure. No, if you can answer, that'd be great. And if we can bring up those results, that'd be wonderful. What are we getting? Yes is 40%. Not sure. Well, you know what? Sometimes you don't know. So maybe this is the metaverse 0.1, right? That we're in it right now. And the no is 51%. Maybe you're actually a yes if you really thought about it. Okay, we're going to switch gears here. We're going to talk about growth in Web3 strategies, how they differ, what works, metrics, tools, all that stuff. Anya, we're going to kick off here. How do growth strategies in Web3 differ from Web2?
Okay, it's all about community. You know, we have owners versus renters. We have passionate community that evangelizes, and we're catering to this community. But as far as the growth strategies, you know, early in the growth strategies also really vary depending upon the life cycle. Early in the life cycle, a lot of Web3 projects just grow through community, through, you know, AMAs on Discord and Twitter is everything, sometimes Telegram. So it's basically those organic channels where it's all happening. Late in the life cycle, you know, traditional marketing techniques, performance marketing becomes relevant as well. So basically it's a mix of different techniques, but it's all about really empowering your community to evangelize for you, to create content, to share this content, turn your users into influencers. You know, Web3 opens up really tremendous opportunities for that. And then, you know, also I want to talk about personalization. We have, which I touched upon in a previous question. We have tremendous amount of data on the blockchain, and we have different classes of users, and it's really important to personalize your approach and create those like genuine bonds with your community members based on who they are and, you know, why they're there and the engagement pattern. So I'm gonna stop here, and I think we have another question to get deeper into techniques.
We
right?
do.
Okay.
Anya, can I be 100% real with you and just reflect on your answers here? I'm asking your permission.
Yeah, of course.
Every time I hear it's about community, I get it. I understand. I get it. But I also want to scream because if I'm a brand new developer, or I'm an indie, or I'm Web 2 and I don't have a community, and everybody says it's all about the community, and I don't have that asset, then what do I do?
That's a really good question about the very, very early start. Again, I mean, you would develop your early users through, through Twitter, through Discord. That's where you start with your Web3 natives. You really get true believers who will like help you develop the product and evangelize, and then it grows from there. That's just how it happens in the Web3. So I know it's kind of a tough, kind of like a message, but it really works.
So what you're saying is it's hard work. You build it, you go, you do the Twitter, you do the Discord, you do the Telegram, you do all that stuff, and you just build it.
As a founder, you are there doing endless AMAs with other projects, and it's partnerships too, right? Like you actually do AMAs with other communities. You bring members from other adjacent communities into yours.
Borrow somebody else's community.
Yeah, because right, that's right. So you basically tap into people who are already there with other communities and bring them in. And
excellent.
That's
Anya, you're a rock star. I hit you with a curveball and you knocked it out of the park. Warren, how do growth strategies in Web3 differ from Web 2?
Yeah, I would love to expand. I mean, Anya set the table very well by dividing that there's two distinct audiences, where there's, going after that core already in Web3 audience. This group is highly educated, highly skeptical. They respond really poorly to ads. And then you have your mainstream player base, and there you can run more of a traditional growth marketing playbook that's been established for years, but I'd love to, since we are digging deeper into it, I'd love to dig into this sort of newer sector of what do you do to build that first core community. And, both as I dove deeper in the Web3 space, started building some projects with friends and stuff too, both with my uptick hat on and just being in these communities and being a builder, I had to kind of like rethink. It's like I can't use my usual playbook here, and so we actually, our team developed a quote unquote product of like organic community growth, and just to really touch on it at a high level, it's really about like how do you make those bonds between different communities to bring the right players in. So at a high level, what this means basically is building a list of target communities that would have high overlap with your product, building a list of essentially like offerings for the higher tier, medium tier, lower tier, and then come to those communities adding value. As Anya said, like we'll host a private founders AMA in your community. We'll integrate your game asset into our game, and really ways to like bring value to this other community, educate them, and get them excited about the project. That's it, getting that 0 to 1. You're right, John, like that is one of the most painful journeys. Like once you have traction and people playing, to some degree, like you have evangelists and the product can speak for itself, but that 0 to 1 is a very tough challenge.
Love it. Love it. That is such a tough challenge. And what I'm hearing from you is you can't just throw money at that challenge. Hagop, anything to add here? How do growth strategies differ from Web3 to Web 2?
Yeah, I wouldn't say what I'm going to mention it's different than Web 2 strategy, but they're very common in the Web 3 market. What we've seen so far, there's a couple of them. One is the hype marketing approach, the exclusivity of it, which we see with board Apes Jakob, fear of missing out, making it like limited stocks available, focusing on the brand collaboration, Mythical Games, Sandbox, Upland, they're all bringing NFL, different brands, Adidas, etc. Like all of these are a good way to promote the brand. Now going to your question, John, of how do we do for a new brand that's not known in the market? I think Anya and Warren covered it really well. One area that I would reinstate is don't be afraid from using the Web 2 traditional growth marketing approach. Imagine like when you were launching a casual match 3 game and there's 200 different match 3 games in the market and you're not sure how to get there. Apply that same strategy here. Spend some money on marketing, get some user base, establish your core audience, and then let the ripple effect come into play. Create the network. When you acquire this base, the base will do the words, and they're going to spread the word for you. They're going to do the work while you get more investments and then reinvest and follow the same traditional model.
Nice. Let's shift gears. We've talked a little bit about how growth strategies differ from Web 2. Warren, I'm going to kick off with you. What are the most successful Web3 marketing strategies?
Yeah, well, to kind of bridge here, I talked on one really critical early stage one, which is the partnerships model. But going off of some of Hegop's points, we think there's just like an immense opportunity to bring performance marketing to Web3 products because so little is being done efficiently right now. I mean, several of the thought leaders in the space are on this stage right now. But there's a number of issues related to this. We still see, for the most part, games still running the billboard model of advertising, both figuratively and literally. You know, just went to NFT NYC and there's billboards everywhere for these games. And someone who's a performance marketer, I'm just like, oh, it's so much like wasted opportunity of, you know, you're nailing all the wrong people that don't care. So I think this next era is going to be, we talked about the product side, how that has to evolve, but we also need to evolve performance marketing tactics to adapt to Web3. Like there's, I think, huge opportunity for Singular and other MMPs to evolve their products, and for whoever's going to be the first to bring to market like a performance marketing solution that can handle like full stack Web3, like hybrid economies where, say, you've got in-app purchase ad revenue. Cool, we're used to those, but then you have a marketplace. You have people trading peer-to-peer assets where the company is only taking, 4% of that trade fee indexed against a volatile token. Like, how do you all boil that down to just sort of like, I put $1 in and I got X back? Like, I think that's both a huge challenge why there is so little performance marketing being done effectively for Web3, and an immense opportunity for those that are early to solve it.
Super interesting. Daniel, I want to move to you. Web 2 strategies still work to a large degree, correct? How do Web 2 traditional marketing strategies play into your Web 3 strategy?
Yeah, and I just want to say one thing really quick, Warren. Those billboards aren't for UA. Like, at least for us, we had them up there for developer and being able to show that we treat our developing partners really well by putting them up in Times Square. But
that makes sense.
But moving forward, yeah, like I think that the UA strategies and everything, it all plays extremely well to Web3. The problem again that we end up running into is that messaging. Again, with achieving efficiencies at scale, you have to be targeting more broader, more general audiences. Otherwise, you're paying out the nose for hyper targeted, small user list, whitelisted type of individual segmentation and whatnot, and it just gets so expensive. And so that's where, like, to piggyback off of what Warren said, right? The partnerships really matter. That we went and got a deal with the NFL for a reason. It's a widely recognizable brand, breaks down those barriers to entry and gets people to click those ads and get us more effectiveness on our Google ad campaigns, right? Like, it's all about playing the game, and you definitely need to be down with your fundamentals. Like, if I was a football coach, not to keep beating the NFL drum over here, but like I would be screaming fundamentals at my marketers and at everybody in this space. It's like you gotta optimize your funnel, apply LCM, apply ASO, landing store optimization, and you need to really diversify. Like with Web 3 as opposed to Web 2, you could just be a mobile first growth marketer and be okay with it. Nowadays, that's not good. You have to be a community marketer. You have to be a momentum based marketer. You have to be a web page specialist. You have to be able to know everything. And so it's tough because not one person can know everything, and that's why you build teams, and you build good teams that have all the skill sets that you don't, that make you look good. So like, anyway, everything with Web 2 is working for Web 3. The problem again is just that messaging and getting over that first initial allergic reaction a lot of folks still have, and I think that over time we'll beat that down.
Hey, it's not hard. You just got to know everything. No worries, not a problem whatsoever. Anya, I'm going to turn to you. We've talked about growth strategies. I want to talk about metrics. What are the metrics for Web3 apps or platforms, environments, and how do they differ from a standard app or game?
Oh, I was hoping I would spend more time on marketing techniques, but okay. So we're talking about data points, right? KPIs. Well, this is a really interesting question, actually. Coming from mobile gaming, from Web 2, it's all about LTV and ROAS, and it's very clear, and you build your cohorts and you build your, LTV curve, and you know what's happening. Well, not so easy in Web 3. We have I think all of us, all the clients you guys have, or mythical games and us, we'll have different sets of KPIs. For me, it's been like a lot of like almost a philosophical exercise to understand what the criteria of success really are at the Sandbox. And I'm like head of performance, so it's really, I have to know, right? And it's basically different classes of users deliver value in completely different ways. So we really start with segmentations and look at all of these distinct class of users, investors, creators, and their class of creators, and user and gamers. And even within gamers, there are several different segments, right? So we build those user profiles, and then each of those segments have completely different sets of KPIs, completely different sets of metrics. For creators, experiences created, for example, right? That's how they deliver value. So we look at like cost per experience create and basically the engagement pattern. For investors, there's obviously, DeFi staking, that contribute to liquidity pool and also buy and develop their land. So it's not really measurable KPIs almost, it's like qualifying. But that's what we look at in acquisition. We see what kind of people we're driving. I also look at Web3, and for gamers, it would be like quests completed and basically the engagement in the game. And then of course, NFT purchases and this kind of like more monetary KPIs. So it's a lot of data, guys, and the user journey is fragmented, and some of it is within the apps, and some of it on the web, and some of it is in the marketplace, and some of it is in a secondary market, and there's Discord and Twitter. So how do you collect and unify all those data points? It's fascinating. And then you have the unprecedented transparency on the blockchain. And guys, in Web3, we can build user profiles in a completely different way. I can see who these users, am I driving empty wallets, or am I driving people who own, other land or, NFTs from other collections? So we can also see like, okay, what like sort of what they have, they whole history of transactions. So we know that, and maybe the data is anonymized, maybe we don't know their name, only wallet ID, but we know so much about the users. And actually the amount of data that we have at our disposal in Web3 to build those user personas, to create personalized marketing is tremendous.
Wow, Daniel says you have to know everything. Anya says you have to be everywhere. I'm starting to get the impression that this is a little challenging. Warren, anything else on metrics and KPIs for Web3 apps?
I mean, I think we touched on most of it, which is, the gold standard will still be to get to the kind of metrics we use in traditional performance marketing, but we're in a really unglamorous phase right now where like a lot of my team's work and, in conversations with Anya, I know other large developers have similar challenges. It's honestly just being plumbers right now. It's just sort of like, okay, like the data exists, like how do we piece it all together and curate it and actually get like clean insights and takeaways here? And so, yeah, it's just that kind of like head down grind, try to put the data stack together, try to get reasonable ways to get these insights.
Warren, you are now Mario. You're a plumber. Okay, shifting gears. We've heard the names several times already. We know how big they are for Web3, Telegram and Discord. Are they still wired, or are they getting tired? Warren, you first.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, for better or for worse, they are still just the foundational layers for communication in Web3. And a lot of this has to do with digital identities and anonymity being such a core tenet of Web3. Like, for a quick anecdote, like as a side project, like I built a game with a few people called the Scrapyard that we just came out of stealth mode last week. And my founding team, like the three other guys, like one of them, I still don't even know his name. We built the whole game without ever seeing each other's faces. Like finally met one of the co-founders in person, and there's a great sort of like leveling of power structures when everyone kind of starts fresh with a digital identity, and it's just based on what is the work, what is your reputation in this space. And I think that's something kind of beautiful about Web3 that Discord and Telegram really accommodate.
I think the new power structure is, can you tolerate Discord? I personally hate it with a passion, but I know many people love it. Anya, Telegram, Discord, still wired or now tired?
I don't really run community for the Sandbox, but of course we have tremendous, huge community that we're absolutely engaged with on Discord and Twitter, not Telegram. That's for us. But I know for other smaller developers, definitely they use Telegram. For us, it's all about Twitter and Discord. There have been some really successful projects lately that actually bypassed Discord and just did Twitter, and were actually quite successful. But yeah, they're still very wired. As a market, I think it's a bit annoying because your user journey is so fragmented, right? It's really difficult to connect it. So the next frontier for us, for me, is actually connecting Discord to our CRM and actually kind of looping it into the user journey so you can just use it as your part of your CRM strategy. But that's kind of difficult. And I just also want to point out that there are projects in Web3 that don't even have a product. The whole thing is Discord. That's where they actually build it before they even get the product, and they get a significant revenue just through basically engaging the community on Discord. So yeah, very much there, kind of more for collectibles maybe, but for games, for everyone, Discord is there, and we'll see what next frontier will be.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Okay, we'll bring up poll number 3, and this is a different kind of poll. This is a, would you like us to pre-register you, register you for another webinar? This webinar is coming up in August and is cracking the code on creative, how to create ads that convert. If you're interested, just say yes, please. Boom, you'll be auto-registered. If you're not, say no, thank you. Kind of works for, you know, Web 2 traditional as well as Web 3, because it all comes down to creative at some point, maybe not on Discord and Telegram so much, but probably still there as well, because you can use images there as well. If you're interested, say yes, please. There we go. And we can drop that down. And now we get to one of my favorite parts of the webinar. And this is where we ask each panelist for their one high level takeaway. It's the goodie bag that you get to take home with you when you've gone to the Oscars, and your top tips. And guess what, Anya, you're up first.
I go first again. Okay.
You go first all the time.
I just want to say my one key takeaway is personalization. Get to know your community, get to know your users, build that bonds, and don't speak with megaphone. You know, and that applies to top funnel marketing. That applies to even more, of course, for mid funnel marketing and engagement. But basically, build those user personas and get to know your community and your users, and then segment, personalize.
Excellent. Daniel, your top takeaway.
Yeah, again, community. It's just one of those things where you need to make sure you really put in a lot of time and effort into planning and strategizing your community roadmap, and starting with enough content to keep those people engaged. If we think about it in the closest way I could relay it back to like Web 2 and mobile gaming, is this is like a pre-golden cohort. This is like a golden cohort. It's a platinum cohort, if you will. These folks are amazing. They're engaged. They're super excited, and they're just all around really great people. You'll have these folks will be moderators. They'll be evangelists for your product, for your cause, for what you stand for, and they will embody everything. So really make sure you put in as much effort as you possibly can, almost more than your go-to-market strategy for the product, into your community go-to-market, because I feel like, you know, sometimes it's rushed, sometimes we have to rush, and you know, it's really just one of those things where I can't state it enough the importance of this key group of early adopters is.
Daniel, it's really funny. I mean, I'm kind of getting the idea that growth in Web3 is about people. And maybe that's one of the things that's hardest for Web 2 people, Web 2 marketers to come to grips with, because there's data and channels and ads and creative and all this other stuff. And and money, lots of money, and throwing it there and just making it all happen. But this is kind of squishy, right? It's kind of, you know, people and a movement and ideas and all this stuff and passion. And that's kind of cool as well. Hago, your one high level takeaway.
Yeah, for me, it's the technology. Technology is a killer. I mean, we should not be scared away from this technology. I mean, the concept of interoperability between different brands or games, I believe that's the future. I mean, we're already seeing it with some collaborations with material brands, such as in clothing with Gucci and Adidas. Imagine seeing that with your favorite game brands interoperate together, or even with other technologies. But I believe we're just at the beginning of this new world. There are a lot of challenges. One challenge is the brand we have to face is getting to the mainstream, which I believe is dependent on the crypto states and the mass market adaptability. And then lastly, I would say the tech. I mean, I think Anya and Warren covered really well on the metric side of things, is understanding the tech, how to build good tech for this, because there's so many segments. It's an economy within an economy. One joke I always say is like, potentially growth marketing teams in the future, they will have to hire an economist in the group and try to figure out how to make the most out of this.
And they are absolutely. And this interoperability is super interesting. I'm going to bring my Reeboks into Nike land on Roblox, and we'll just have a great old time there. Awesome. Warren, your top takeaway.
Yeah, so I mean, in this bear market, it's a really good time to just dive in. Like if you haven't really journeyed into these communities yet, played some of these games, I think it's a wonderful time too, because there is so much less noise. Daniel brought up a great point, which is like, for me, one of the biggest surprises was there's this really negative like crypto bro stereotype. Once I actually started joining some of these communities, really wonderful people and connections that you made. Like I've made several just like lifelong friends in sort of my first serious year being part of these communities. So dive in. Now's the time to do your homework. Don't copy existing playbooks, because for better or for worse, nothing has been proven out yet. Even the largest games in the space, not to reference Axie again, but it's like Axie has already fully pivoted on their whole business model, and with Axie Ordinance, it's going to be a free to play game first and foremost. Meanwhile, there's all these projects coming to market that copy pasted their tokenomics.
They're on the old model still.
Yeah, exactly. The leaders are already on to the next thing. And I think, Mythical, Sandbox, like these are two companies that like on the edge, likely to be those leaders that break open the playbook. But dive in, learn for yourself, draw your own conclusions. Don't go off of what you read on Kotaku about everything Web3 being a scam, but also don't listen to all of us on stage as the Kool-Aid drinkers. But yeah, take notes, but don't copy paste, and just dive in and enjoy and experience these things.
Excellent. No pressure. Millions of dollars at stake. Future of the company. Just dive in. Go for it.
You don't have to buy things. I always try to clarify that. You don't rush into buying things, but just talk to people and play the games and have the experiences.
So squishy, so real. Absolutely love it. Hey, we're at the next favorite part of the webinar for me, and that's Q&A. We have so many questions. It's I think second most ever, and we have literally like 3 minutes. So we're going to answer a lot of these on the Singular blog. Sign up for that, get the newsletter, figure it out, check singular.net/blog, I think, and we'll answer them there shortly. I would like to get it to at least a couple. I'm going to open this to the panel, and maybe Hagop will give you first crack at it. We got this question from Christopher Muller from App Venture Studio. He says he wants to know more about what's currently possible and allowed by Apple and Google on mobile platforms. Can we integrate NFTs into mobile games and apps? And can those holders of NFTs be given special benefits or perks? And can we monetize those NFTs? He has more questions, but let's start there. Hagop, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing right now with some technologies, and I'll bring the example of Upland, what they're trying to do right now is they are doing what Chris is asking the question is, basically selling the NFTs with the Apple or Google currency, but they're making it really smart way without saying that, oh, you're buying an NFT. They're telling you that you're buying something, a value added within the game that was built on the Apple, or for the Apple Store or the Android Store. So that's the technology that is available in today. However, the limitation there with Apple and Google is you cannot resell it, because you cannot make money playing those games in the App Store yet. So that's where the cutoff is, and for that, what the technology is possible through technology with this example is you can sell it on the web. You can have access not just to the app, but you can have also an access to that app product on the web, and that's where you can make the trade. So that's where the technology is. We'll have to wait and see when Apple and Google decide to say, well, no NFTs at all, or they're just going to open it up and say, you know what, guys, feel free. It's a free word. Just trade and whatever you want and make money out of it.
Cool. One more, and I think I'll throw it at Daniel. Can we do staking or allow players to earn crypto in games, similar to what Coda Limited platform is trying to do with Infinite Arcade, or have some of those gains slip through the review process? So can we do staking and allow players to earn crypto?
That's a really tough one, and we're talking specifically just to mobile, right? And the yeah, that's a really good question. I'll be honest with you, we haven't pulled that up with Apple yet. We don't have staking in any of our games. It just isn't something that we've found a model that kind of works at the benefit of the player so far. but we do, everything Hugo had just mentioned is what we're tracking on and what we know to be true at this point. But sorry, I don't have a good answer for you on the staking.
No worries, no worries. The zombie and vampire game makers going, yeah, we have staking. We've had it for 5 years. I think we'll end right there. There's so many more questions. We will answer them. I'm going to ask Warren. I'm going to ask Hago, Daniel, Anya, please help answer those questions on the Singular blog. We'll publish those out. You know what? You guys have so much more to say. I had to skip over some stuff. We'll have you on a Growth Masterminds podcast or something like that. I want to thank each of you who go so much in the insights. Daniel, really do appreciate it. Warren, thank you. Anya, really loved your data and your insights. Thank you so much. For everybody who's been part of this, thank you for attending. Thank you for attending in the future. And thank you to everybody at Singular who makes this possible as well in the background. Lara and Saudi and so many others. Have yourself a great day.